Unlike the shows before Elimination Chamber, Smackdown this week made serious progress both towards Wrestlemania and towards Fastlane, with the winners of the Royal Rumble both declaring who they would be competing against, both Smackdown competitors, and of course Daniel Bryan challenging Roman Reigns. It is time for this week's Smackdown review. I'm Tom Colohue, remember to subscribe if you haven't and like if you can, and let's get started. The show opened, as has become traditional, with Roman Reigns running down Edge and essentially saying he was looking forward to their WrestleMania match, but Edge should probably just quit and walk away because he had no chance. True words, honestly, had never been spoken. He would be interrupted by Daniel Bryan, who of course he did vanquish at Elimination Chamber after Bryan had already competed with 5 other men in the chamber itself. So not the biggest win to hang your hat on, as it were. Daniel Bryan wanted a match at Fastlane, and via some interesting shenanigans, that was able to be wrangled after a fashion. Daniel Bryan would be attacked from behind, or at least from to the side, by Jey Uso and thrown into the Thunderdome. Adam Pearce would make official that we would have a main event in which Daniel Bryan would face Jey Uso, and if Daniel Bryan won, he would get his match for the Universal Championship with Roman Reigns at Fastlane. Roman and Bryan have some serious history in that pay-per-view. Edge would appear backstage, going to Adam Pearce and Bianca Belair to essentially complain about the fact that they were supposed to have a match between Edge and Bryan versus Roman and Jey, which would not happen. Once again, Roman managed to wrangle his way out of wrestling on SmackDown, and Edge has only wrestled twice so far this year. Edge would later approach Daniel Bryan during an interview segment with Kayla Braxton. Not a great look for Edge because he essentially complained to Daniel Bryan as well, and Bryan walked away from him. Dominic and Rey Mysterio had a rematch against Otis and Chad Gable this week, but Otis and Chad Gable, being the heels now that they were a lot more matter of fact in the way that they went about things. The match was brief but quite entertaining. Really the whole point was to make Otis look good, and they did. Even though Rey and Dominic did manage to get a lot of their moves in, it was at Chad Gable's expense. Otis would eventually pin Rey Mysterio, a scalp for Otis, especially for the second week in a row. Apollo Crews made his entrance, and this was a really big night for Apollo, who was able to lean back on a lot of his old heritage and really establish a personality that has been a lacking element in Apollo Crews' portrayal for the entirety of his time on the main roster. I'm familiar with Crews locally to me, back in his days as UR Nation, which is a character that lent into a lot more of this information that he was able to portray in this promo. It was heavily scripted, it was well delivered, and it really said a lot more about the character of Crews. He would also go into a match with Shinsuke Nakamura in which he would pick up the win due to the slightest bit of cheating, just the slightest bit. I still expect at Fastlane we are going to see a triple threat between Big E, Shinsuke Nakamura and Apollo Crews for the Intercontinental Championship, which should be a really fun match. Last week Tamina and Natalya took on the Riot Squad. This week, in a much truncated fashion, we saw Tamina essentially physically overpower Liv Morgan. Morgan got a few good hits in and was able to build up a little head of steam, but was ultimately put down by Tamina. Tamina works a similar system to Naomi in that she will appear for a couple of months, be booked as a monster, and then vanish for the second half of the year. So as much as I am annoyed by the cycle, Tamina winning here does make sense. No sign of Billie Kay though, which gives me a little bit of what I'm looking for in terms of development of that storyline. If you've been following my preview shows over on twitch.tv/Tom Colohue, where I lay out everything that I'm hoping to see for the shows, this was something that I'm really excited to see more of, because I feel the Billie Kay story has run its course and they need to develop it a little bit in order to get more life in it. Sasha Banks traditionally straddles the second hour draw segment, and this time was no exception. Bianca Belair had declared before SmackDown that she would be announcing who she would be challenging at WrestleMania, and it was no real shock here. Io Shirai was not publicised at all as a possibility. Asuka was mentioned but was not in play, as in she was not in the building. The only person in the building who made her entrance was Sasha Banks. Sasha Banks also, while making her entrance, did her old-fashioned heel laugh, which suggests that we are definitely going the full heel route for Sasha. We got some significant progress in the story of the Street Profits, who returned to the ring this week to earn the right to face the Dirty Dogs, Dolph Ziggler and Robert Roode, probably at Fastlane but also possibly next week, because I'm not sure how many SmackDown matches there are going to be at Fastlane, so they might not want to get all of them on immediately, as they seem to be doing. The Street Profits would take on and defeat Sami Zayn and Baron Corbin, with Sami Zayn taking the pin. It's an interesting storyline when it comes to Sami and Baron Corbin. They have been established as friends previously, particularly where Kevin Owens is also involved. However, the camera crew really did screw up Baron Corbin's rhythm, essentially eliminating him from the match. If the camera crew hadn't been so invasive, Corbin and Sami Zayn would probably have won this one. Seth Rollins made his entrance going into the last half hour, once again a smaller but still significant draw segment. As he began his promo, he was immediately interrupted by Cesaro, who came down, and after a while of Seth trying to essentially hire Cesaro, including a name drop for Roman Reigns, Cesaro had enough, picked Seth up, swung him around and around, right round, round, and Seth just flailed his arms wildly, which was very, very entertaining. This is essentially the beginning of the feud. I doubt we'll see this on Fastlane. The card there is filling up rather quickly on the SmackDown side, so I suspect this match will be a WrestleMania match, giving them plenty of time to build up and essentially highlight the friendship between the two. I don't think they'll get too physical in the build up to it. I think this may be done mostly in hype packages and showing off memories, because we haven't experienced this friendship unless you've been watching Up Up Down's Game of Thrones recap shows. Finally, our main event was Daniel Bryan against Jey Uso, and this match did not quite go as I expected. The logical choice would have been a clean win for Daniel Bryan, or some sort of screwy win in which he gets speared by Roman and wins by disqualification. That seemed to be the logical route. However, once again, Daniel Bryan got a bit of a beatdown, severe damage was done to his knee, and ultimately it ended on a double countout with no clear winner. I suspect we'll see a rematch next week, or we will see Bryan and Edge, as expected this week according to them, take on Roman and Jey for the opportunity, giving Edge mixed interests, shall we say, because I don't think he wants to face Daniel Bryan. Roman would appear after the match to attack Bryan once again, really deliver a severe beatdown one more time. Edge, as in the first segment, would not bother to come and help. In fact, no one would. Cesaro wouldn't, the Alpha Academy wouldn't, Drew Gulak wouldn't. Daniel Bryan has suddenly run out of friends. This for me was a high quality SmackDown, really enjoyable, and we saw real character progression in a lot of different ways. We saw the Cesaro-Seth Rollins feud kick off properly in an entertaining fashion. We saw a huge amount of character development for Apollo Crews, and we saw a continuation of what's going on between the Riot Squad and Natalya and Tamina, even though Billie Kay did not feature. The key segments, however, involved Daniel Bryan and Roman Reigns. After Elimination Chamber, I was concerned that we wouldn't see a real follow-up for Daniel Bryan because the WWE would turn its eyes to Edge. This made a lie of that worry. The match quality was high and each segment was entertaining. I value this SmackDown very highly and suggest that you guys check it out. Match of the week for me, for SmackDown at least, was Apollo Crews and Shinsuke Nakamura, who delivered quite a compelling match. The rest of the matches were still high quality, but it was WWE standard quality really at this point. They do deliver high quality matches, they just weren't pay-per-view quality as it were. I've been Tom Colohue. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you can, and remember that I will be doing watch parties and preview shows for Raw and SmackDown over on twitch.tv/Tom Colohue every single week. You can check them out and check out the schedule in the links in the description below. Let me know what you thought of SmackDown in the comments. Be sure to like the video, and thank you very much for watching.